So what is Bitcoin? Do you really know what it is? Do you think it's a currency? Well, today we're going to talk about exactly what Bitcoin is, and more importantly, what Bitcoin is not. So when we think of Bitcoin, we have to think about it in terms of Bitcoin equals property. This is the simplest explanation of Bitcoin. My goal is not to walk through all of the intricacies of the cryptocurrency. Bitcoin equals property rights. That's how you have to think about it. So what do I mean by that? Well, you have to compare Bitcoin to gold. That's really the best comparison out there. If we're going to compare it to gold, well then what is gold? And gold being the largest asset out there, let's just go to the charts here on companiesmarketcap.com. If we look at the top assets by market cap, we see gold here up at the top at $11 trillion, followed by Apple next in line at almost $3 trillion. So what does this mean? Well, it means that more money is in gold than any other asset. Well, so then you have to ask yourself, well, why is that? And it's because gold is property. It's seen as a hard fixed asset where you can store your wealth in property. And so when you think of Bitcoin, you have to think digital gold. That's what Bitcoin is. It's digital gold. So gold being property and being the most invested in asset, why is Bitcoin more attractive? Well, you have to think of Bitcoin as apex property. It is the equivalent of buying property. It's like buying land in Manhattan in New York before there was anything built 100 years ago. That's where we are in the early stages of Bitcoin. And that's why it's so attractive, because you can get access to property very early. And so as we scroll down the list here, we can see that Bitcoin is hovering right now at almost $1 trillion. We've got Tesla right above it. They kind of go back and forth in terms of market cap lately. And eventually, what we're going to see happen is Bitcoin is going to eclipse silver, then it's going to eclipse everything else, Amazon, and all the way up, and eventually, not too far from now, it will eclipse gold. That day is coming. So then you have to ask yourself, well, okay, why would that happen? What makes Bitcoin more attractive than real physical gold, a real hard asset? The way to think about that is when you think of gold, you have to understand that it's not easily transferable, right? So if you're a big company or a big bank or institution and you want to go buy $1 billion worth of gold, well, that's great. But then how do you get it? And what if you want to sell that $1 billion worth of gold? Do you pack up a ship full of gold and send it across the ocean over to a different country to sell your gold somewhere? It's just not easily transferable. It's a very difficult property to move around, and it's also at risk of a 2% inflation rate because every year gold gets mined, and that is essentially continuing to happen year over year. So it's not a fixed asset. What happens is the value of gold over time actually diminishes in some ways because the amount of assets circulating in supply in the world is going up every year. It's almost no different than the US government printing money. The big difference being that it's not infinitely printable or findable or mineable. But okay, now that we've got that out of the way, let's circle back. Why Bitcoin? Why is Bitcoin more attractive than gold? Well, the thing about Bitcoin is you can transfer property rights to someone else almost instantly around the world. So if you buy $1 billion worth of Bitcoin and you want to sell that to somebody in a different country, you could sell it, boom, like that. And there goes the $1 billion, and you can exchange it for wealth. So that's what makes Bitcoin so attractive as digital gold, as property. So don't think of Bitcoin as a currency. Do I think it will ever be a mainstream currency? I don't know, but you can't look at it that way. Bitcoin is property. Bitcoin is a store of value. It's a store of wealth. It is nothing else. Maybe at some point it will become a currency, but regardless, that will never be its primary use. Its primary use will be to store wealth. So now that we got that out of the way, that's what I really wanted you to understand. Don't think of Bitcoin as anything other than real estate. It's real estate in a virtual land. That's how to look at it. That's what I wanted you to know. If you guys enjoyed the content and want to hear more about other cryptocurrencies, give this video a thumbs up, hit that subscribe button below, turn on the notification bell, and I'll catch you in my next video.